Fire and Ice, a Star-Stable Online fanfiction by Stephanie Dragonchild. Before you listen to this, I recommend going and listening to Within Temptation's Fire and Ice. There, you'll be able to get a picture of what the story may be about. Darko smirked as he locked the door. With lemon cake in the stables, Stephanie was only at half strength. "What do you want, Darko?" the blonde hissed. Using his magic, he pinned her to the sofa. Was he perverted or something? She was only in a towel. She couldn't move, so let out a scream. Her heart was pounding so hard against her ribcage, she thought it would crack some bone. Avalon had been outside for a moonlit read when he heard screaming coming from Stephanie's cottage. He wasn't the only one who heard it, because Elizabeth was coming over the bridge. "Don't dawdle, Avalon," Elizabeth said. Worry was plastered on her face as she hurried to the Soul Rider's home. Snapping his book shut, Avalon hurried to Stephanie's cottage. "This can't be good," he said. When they got there, Elizabeth noticed the door was locked. Using his moon circle powers, Avalon unlocked the door. Darko turned to face them. "Can we help you?" he smirked. Elizabeth was beyond angry and wanted to kill him. "Leave, Darko," Elizabeth hissed. Avalon wasn't one for fighting, but he had no choice. Stephanie was scared stiff and still frozen on the sofa. Tears fell from her eyes as she gave a pleading look to both of the druids. Alex was riding back into Valedale to give the runestone readings to Elizabeth. That's when she saw the commotion at Stephanie's house. Tin Can reared up and bolted for the home. Lemon Cake was neighing loudly, and with a well-aimed bolt of lightning, Alex unlocked Lemon Cake's stall. The brown and white horse galloped with them over the stone bridge. "I tried getting out before, but to no avail. My sweet Stephanie is in trouble," Lemon Cake said. Tin Can looked at her. "Don't worry, we'll kick some butt," he smiled. Darko stalked over to Elizabeth and shot her out of the house with a ball of flames. Elizabeth hit her head on the wooden fence and it knocked her out. "That's one annoyance out of the way," he spat. "Oi, Pyro!" came a voice. Before Darko could distinguish who it was, a high-voltage bolt of lightning struck him. "Alex Cloudmail, you won't succeed," he snarled. "Oh yeah? You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Haven't you Darkcore creeps learned that yet?" Alex bravely said. Lightning crackled in her right palm, and she was ready to turn up the voltage. Well, she would have done if Katya hadn't arrived. "You can't seem to handle yourself, can you, Darko?" Katya sighed. Darko scoffed at the white-haired female. Sabine entered the house through a dark portal, flinging Stephanie into the portal with her dark lightning powers. "Steph, no!" Alex yelled. That was it. Alex was beyond pissed, and she sent a highly charged bolt at both Darko and Katya. "You can have Stephanie back as soon as you tell us where Elise is," Darko said, spitting out some blood from his mouth. "We'll never tell you, Pyro. We will get both Stephanie and Anne back either way," Alex growled. Katya laughed and went with Darko through another portal. Lemon Cake's head hung in despair, and Alex clenched her hands into fists. Her friend was gone. Another one taken by those creeps. She got out her phone and called Lisa and Linda. Alex tried masking her cracking voice, but failed. She sobbed into the phone. "They have Steph," she wept. An emergency meeting was called. They were back down to just 3 riders. Darkcore were winning, but were they really? At Darkcore headquarters, Stephanie was thrown into a room and given some clothes. They were comprised of a Megadeth t-shirt, black skinny jeans that had skeletal hands on the back pockets, cherry red Doc Martens, and a leather jacket that had several spikes on each shoulder. At least whoever these clothes belonged to had good taste. She got dressed and looked at herself in the mirror. And to think, I wanted to move to Jorvik permanently. This has been one wild summer, Stephanie groaned as she spoke to herself in said mirror. She heard the handle of the door click open, and in strode Darko. "I see Elise's clothes fit you, Soul Rider." He smirked. Stephanie rolled her eyes and stuck out her tongue. It was childish, but she had cuffs on her wrists that nullified her powers. Darko let a chuckle rumble through his chest. He walked over to her, grabbing her chin forcefully and lifting her head up to meet his icy gaze. "Feisty as ever, I see." That look in your eyes will be extinguished soon, dear Stephanie. That I can promise you, he smirked. The blonde soul rider literally spat in his face, causing him to let go. Darko slapped her forcefully with the back of his right hand, causing Stephanie to fall to the floor. Don't you ever do that again, you brat, he seethed. Wiping the saliva off his face, he stormed out, locking the door behind him, leaving Stephanie in the dimly lit room. Lisa had taken care of Elizabeth, and now the druids had all gathered in the secret stone circle for the meeting. Fripp had a dark look on his fuzzy face. The cosmic being sighed sadly and turned to Alex. You did your best, Alex, and we will get Stephanie back. We just need time to plan, Fripp said. The words time and plan didn't sit well with Alex. Not at all. Time? We don't have time, Fripp, Alex boomed, causing the druids to flinch in shock. Linda and Lisa looked upset too, but weren't as vocal about it as Alex was. Calm yourself, Alex. We'll get her back, Elizabeth said. The soul rider of the lightning scoffed to Elizabeth. And how long is Stephanie going to wait, huh? Same amount of time as Anne? I'm going to go and save Stephanie. There's no time for planning. The more planning we do, the more time we waste. Who knows what those creeps are doing to her? Alex snapped. Linda put a comforting hand on Alex's shoulder. I'm behind you, Alex. We can figure something out on the ride to Golden Hills. Linda smiled. Lisa nodded in agreement. Count me in. She saved both Linda and I, so we have a debt to return, the Texan said. Fripp knew he wasn't going to change their minds, especially Alex's. Just be careful. Don't be reckless. Just go to Darkhall, get Stephanie and come back, he ordered in his squeaky voice. How long was she going to be stuck here? Would her friends even come for her? Stephanie sat on the creaky bed and buried her face in the pillow. At least Darkhall kept stuff clean, even if she was being held hostage. The door opened again and in came Jessica. I would give up hope if I were you. Your little friends won't save you. Now tell us where Elise is, and we'll let you go. But not without a scratch, Jessica smirked. Look, I came to Jorvik for a riding camp. Then I was thrust into this war by the druids. I have no idea where they're keeping Elise. I only know so much about the things such as Pandoria and Anne. Even if I did know things, I would never tell Dark Rider filth like you. Aideen will guide my sisters to me, Steph said, in a brave tone. Jessica growled and went to use her powers, when a hand grabbed her wrist. Mr. Sands, please, let me dispose of her, Jessica hissed. We need her as insurance. The Soul Riders will come for her, and when they do, we'll trap them all in Pandoria, he smiled. Gross. Could one man get any uglier and creepier? Turns out he could. Wow, that smile is going to make me throw up my dinner, Stephanie muttered to herself. Mr. Sands' gaze snapped to her. What was that? He barked. Oh, nothing. Just complimenting your looks, she lied. Maybe if she made up something about where Elise was hidden, it would buy the Soul Riders some time to get here. That was a brilliant idea. If I may, Stephanie began. I may know a little piece of information, she finished. Mr. Sands didn't say anything, which was a sign for her to continue. I may have a rough idea where Elise is, but I'm going to have to show you, she said. Jessica didn't buy it, and brought up her hand again to strike her. Jessica, get Darko. He'll escort Miss Dragonchild to Pandoria and keep an eye on her, Mr. Sands said. Jessica sighed and did as she was instructed. She gave one last glare to the Soul Rider and left in a huff. Stephanie was dragged onto the helipad where that strange portal was by two of Darkhall's goons. Psst! When I give the signal, run, a familiar voice spoke. Alex? Stephanie whispered. The glamour was dropped. Hey guys, miss us? Alex smirked. She got the cuffs free from Stephanie's wrists with some of her magic. Soul Riders! Sabine screeched. The lightning in Stephanie's palms was sparking in anticipation, wanting to kick Darkhall behind. Ready? Asked Alex. Stephanie nodded with an eager smile on her lips. I was born ready, Al, she said. A neigh ripped through the chaos, and Stephanie saw her beloved lemon cake. Cakey, she spoke, in sheer happiness. She hopped up onto the mare's back, and Lemon Cake gave her a determined look. We'll take to the air, Steph informed. and Lemmercake spread her wings and took flight. The Dark Core minions were running around like headless chickens, which amused the Soul Riders. Katya and the other girls face-palmed and shook their heads with an annoyed groan towards the employees. Tin Can came charging through like a mad bull. "Excuse me, coming through." "Oops, sorry, didn't see you there." The pony laughed and his rider pulled herself upon his back. "Hey, where's Steph and Lemmercake?" he asked, and Alex pointed up. He let out a happy whinny and gave a small V of joy. Alex felt powerful again and sent bolts of lightning and some soul strike to the goons. Sabine growled and summoned Khan, mounting up onto him. She sent her own black lightning towards Alex, but Starshine and Lisa jumped in just in time to put up a shield to protect her. This was getting out of hand and giving Darko a headache. While she was off guard, Darko froze Stephanie and her soul horse like he had before and shoved her into the portal. The Soul Riders didn't see this until the last second. Back in Pandoria, Darko was very angry. "You have given me enough trouble and migraines to last a lifetime," he said. Stephanie just shrugged and Lemmercake snorted. "Do we care?" "Nope," Steph said, popping the P in a sarcastic manner. They were in a place of Pandoria she hadn't seen before. It was darker here and there were shadow seekers scanning the area. "I won't ask you again. Where is Elise?" Darko hissed. Stephanie dismounted and walked up to him. The pyromaniac felt his heart start to beat fast, and he tried to remain as stoic as he could. "I don't know." With that, Stephanie turned to get back onto her horse until she was forcefully turned around by her enemy. What happened next was a shock to them both. Darko grabbed the front of her shirt and pulled her to him, crashing his lips on hers. Stephanie stood there wide-eyed, and Lemmercake's jaw dropped. Shaking her head, the horse stomped over and pulled Darko off of Stephanie. Her rider stood there, still in shock. Giving her a gentle nip, Stephanie came back down to earth. "What the hell, Darko?" Stephanie snapped, spitting onto the floor in disgust. Both their faces were as red as the lining of Darko's coat. He just stood there, trying to find the words. He didn't know himself. All he knew was that it felt amazing. Closing his eyes, he let out a deep breath. "Leave. There's a portal open on the other side of that cave," he informed, pointing to the cave guarded by the Shadow Seekers. Both horse and rider were shocked. He was letting them go, but why? Clearing her throat, Stephanie looked at him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Darko just shrugged, and a bit embarrassed over the kiss. "I don't know why. I just can never bring myself to hurt you. Now go, before I change my mind," he said. She didn't need telling twice, and mounted up. "Thank you," she smiled, and Lemmercake took off at a full gallop. Darko stood there, watching her enter the cave. He felt his heart burn with something he hadn't felt before. Love and protection. He would secretly help her in any way he could. Screw Elise. That ship had sailed. "No, I can't fall for her, no matter how much I want to," Darko said, trying to choose his head over his heart. However, his heart was winning the internal battle. Dancing past the Shadow Seekers, both Soul Rider and Soul Horse came to the pink portal. "Any idea to where it leads?" Stephanie asked, while patting Lemmercake's neck. The horse took in a deep breath and snorted before shaking herself. "I don't know, but it's a risk we're going to have to take in order to get out of here," Lemon said. With a careful prod, they leapt into the portal. They entered the realm between worlds, and Stephanie sighed. "Why did he help us?" she pondered. Lemmercake snorted. "Perhaps to get on your good side, then betray you when he gets what he wants," Lemmercake said. Stephanie hated to admit it, but there was truth in her horse's words. Jumping over gaps in the broken path, they made it to the other portal. Stepping through it, they entered a part of Jorvik that they hadn't seen before. A Gothic mansion loomed above them, with a dead and abandoned garden. It looked like something from a cheesy horror film. They looked up at the gate and noticed words upon it. Pine Hill Mansion. She had heard of this place from Linda, and it was every bit creepy as she described. They heard noises coming from inside. Perhaps it wasn't as abandoned as the exterior made it out to be. Stephanie dismounted and began to walk to the gate, before Lemmercake grabbed her jacket and gently pulled her back. "I don't think it's a good idea," the horse said. "A quick loop won't hurt." Stephanie smiled. With that, she opened the gate. It screeched open, as the hinges hadn't been oiled in forever. She jogged up the stairs of the mansion and looked back to Lemoncake. The mare had a look of worry and excitement plastered on her face. Stephanie pushed the door open, only to be greeted by a ball of flame. Darko looked shocked and offered his hand to Stephanie. "Darko, what are you doing here?" she asked. "I could very well ask you the same thing. It's dangerous here, Stephanie," he said. She blushed. Was Darko showing emotion, even caring about her safety? She remembered the kiss in Pandoria, and her blush reddened even more. "The portal sent me here," she explained. Darko sighed and ushered her inside. "I can't have Darkcore knowing you've been snooping around here," Darko growled. "Oh, I thought you wanted that to happen," the Soul Rider pointed out with a raised eyebrow. The pyromaniac looked at her with soft eyes, and this made her heart beat faster. She hadn't seen it until now, how handsome Darko was. He leaned closer, their noses brushing against each other. Before anything happened, Darko pulled away at the last second. "I don't know what I'm feeling. All I know is I want to protect you. You're my enemy, and yet I can't harm you. It also pains me to see you harmed," he whispered. A shock of pleasure ran up his spine when Stephanie placed her hand on his. "Perhaps being a good soul for once is making your brain run at a Mach 3? She chuckled. Darko shared her smile. Those lips, he wanted to claim them again, but decided against it. He pulled his hand away and stood up. "I want to see you again. Please give me a chance," he sighed. Well, this was unusual. Stephanie laughed, causing Darko to blush redder than his hair. "Where's Darko, and what have you done with him?" Steph teased. She wouldn't admit it, but she wanted to see him again too. It was risky, but who wasn't up for a real-life Romeo and Juliet story? Darko reached out and placed a warm hand on the Soul Rider's cheek and began to caress it with his thumb. Her eyes widened, and once again her heartbeat picked up. "Darko," she breathed, placing her hand over his. All of a sudden, the door opened, and in came Sabine. Darko and Stephanie jumped apart from each other. What a way to kill the mood. "So you've got her then? What has the little weakling said?" Sabine demanded. Lightning sparked in Stephanie's palm, and she shot it at Sabine, knocking her out. "Go, now," Darko ordered. She couldn't leave him, not when he had saved her life. "What about you?" she panicked. "I'll be fine, just get back to the druids." "Stephanie, go, please," he begged. Stephanie's eyes welled up with hot tears as she dashed out of the building, through the rusty gate and back up onto Lemoncake. Tears spilled from her eyes as Lemoncake galloped through the unfamiliar forest. "We need to save him. This is the second time he's saved me," Stephanie wept. Lemoncake looked up to her rider with a kind, motherly gaze. "I'm much as opposed to this, but I want you to be happy. You'll see him again, hopefully under happier and less stressful circumstances," the mare smiled. Stephanie prayed that Lemoncake was right. She felt a pang in her heart. Was she developing feelings for him? Getting back to Valedale took longer than expected. Hey, they had been in unfamiliar territory, so of course it would take an hour. Maybe 3. They saw the other girls at Avalon's and went over to them. Linda was the first to spot them. "Stephanie, thank Adine you're all right," the Moon Circle rider said. Sliding off Lemon, Stephanie smiled. He let me go," Steph muttered, almost inaudible. Lisa and Alex shared the same look. "Come again?" Alex asked, with a look of shock and disbelief. Stephanie composed herself and looked at the Soul Riders and Avalon dead in the eye. "Darko let me go. The portal I went through took me to Pinehill Mansion, where I came across him again. He seemed to be fighting over his head and heart, I think," Stephanie said. "Whoa, hold on there, girl. Darko doesn't love anyone except himself. He's a self-absorbed pyromaniac. Don't fall for it, Steph," Alex warned. She wanted to listen to her friend. She really did. But she wanted to see Darko again. Weeks passed, and without taking her horse, Stephanie went back to the mansion. No one was there, no traces of Darko either. Her shoulders slumped in sadness and disappointment, but she entered anyway. "I need to talk to you again. I need you to be honest with me," Stephanie said into the darkness. "You really shouldn't be here," came a familiar voice. Stephanie whipped her head around and saw him. "Darko," she said, and ran to him. "Like I said before, I don't want to see you get hurt," the redhead said, putting an index finger under her chin and making her look at him. He brought his face close to hers again, and Stephanie didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer until their lips were brushing against each other. Darko let instinct take over and pressed his lips against hers. The Soul Rider responded and wrapped her arms around him, deepening the action. The pyro pinned her against a wall nearby as their make-out session became more heated. Before things could progress any further, Darko pulled away. "I'm sorry," he said. Stephanie placed a finger to his lips. "Don't be. I'm not," she smirked. Darko rested his forehead against hers with a smile. "We're enemies, and yet we're here, doing this. Not that I'm complaining," he whispered. He heard something coming from upstairs. "Quick, hide in the basement," he breathed, opening a door and gently shoving her inside. Now Stephanie was worried. She heard voices upstairs, but couldn't make them out, until Darko started shouting. "And you think I'm not doing anything to try and find her?" he roared, obviously at one of the Dark Riders or at Mr. Sands himself. Stephanie kept as quiet as she could, so she didn't attract any attention to herself. Sitting on a box, she noticed something filled with old newspapers. She took a look at one of them in the dim light. The girls on the front looked very similar to her friends. Were these past Soul Riders? She shook her head and stood up as soon as she heard the door open. It was only Darko. "Are you all right?" he asked, pulling her into his arms. All she could do was nod and bury her face into his chest. Things were moving so fast. Gently pushing her away from himself, Darko handed her a file. "Take this to the druids. It's not much, but it should help Fripp get back on his paws. I'm sorry about him. He was protecting all of you. From me." Darko looked down as if he was hurt by his own actions. Stephanie could see it in his face. He wanted to change, but had to keep up this facade to keep Darkcore in the shadows, thinking he still worked for them. "It's time to leave. I'll walk you to the familiar roads. Then you need to head straight home," Darko said. They didn't want to part when they got to a road Stephanie knew. They parted with a sad goodbye, but not before exchanging numbers. Darko leant in and kissed her forehead. "Stay safe," he muttered. "You too," Stephanie smiled. With that, Darko left in his flames and Stephanie headed home. It was night time by the time she got back home. She entered her house and collapsed on the sofa. She opened the file and rummaged through it. Darko wasn't lying when he said it would help Fripp. Now she had to give this file to the druids. It could wait until morning. Stephanie headed upstairs and drew herself a nice hot bath. It melted her worries away and untied the knots in her tense muscles. The smell of lavender hit her nostrils as she groaned, feeling her whole body relax. After getting out of the bath, Stephanie headed for her room and collapsed in her bed. She turned off the lamp that had a dragon as the stand and fell into a much-needed slumber. The past few weeks have been exhausting, and hopefully she will get a decent night's sleep. Hopefully. Thank you for listening to this chapter of Fire and Ice. The next chapter will be up on my Wattpad in 2 weeks' time. I hope you can join me later on for my live stream. See you next week, my dragons.